Good morning, class 6. Today is Wednesday, another very good morning that we are going to proceed with what we were doing in the last lesson. In the last lesson, we were looking at mathematics. Specifically, the topic that we were looking at was integers. So we are still proceeding with this topic of integers. And as you remember, what I told you, that this topic is very important because it's going to help you solve other questions that are related. So this is a very important topic that you need to pay very much attention so as to understand what we are doing. Under this topic of integers, in the last lesson we discussed about addition and the subtraction of integers. Under this addition and subtraction of integers, we discussed about the principles that are going to guide us when we are adding and subtracting integers. So to remind ourselves, we talked about the principles of adding integers. When we are dealing with the principles of adding integers, we said that there are two basic principles that help us to add integers. Number one, we said that when the signs are the same, keep the sign and the add. When the signs are the same, keep the sign and the add. For example, we said of having positive 5 plus positive 5. So if you look at this question, the signs are the same. So what we do, we simply maintain the sign and you add. So what you do here, you look at the sign. The two numbers have the positive sign. So by the end of the day, you take 5 plus 5, you get that it's positive 10. The principle is when the signs are the same, keep the sign and add. Again, we also talk about, remember we have positive and negative integers. We may have negative 10 plus negative 5. The concept is keep the sign and add. So when you look at this, here we have negative 10 and they also have negative 10. So we are going to add it and we shall be having negative 15. This is the first principles which we talked about when we were discussing about addition and addition of integers. But also we have the second principle. This was the first principle. We have the second principle. So the second principle which we talked about is that when the signs are different, keep the sign of the bigger number or a number which is far away from 0 and you subtract. So example, we have negative 15 plus positive 5. So when you look at this question here, we have negative 15 plus positive 5. So we say that look at the number which is far away from 0 or the bigger number. So the bigger number is 15. Then we subtract. So we are going to take 15 minus 5 and we get that it is 10. So the answer, we are going to keep the sign of the bigger number. So the bigger number here is 15. So our answer is going to be negative 10. This is what we discussed about in our last lesson. But also, I have to remind you that we also discussed about this was addition. This was addition. We also discussed about subtraction. Subtraction of integers. Here I'm just trying to remind you. We discussed about subtraction of integers and we said that subtraction of integers there was only one statement which says that add the opposite of the second number. Add the opposite of the second number. Example, on adding the opposite of the second number, maybe we have negative 25 minus 5, for example. So the question says that add the opposite of the second number. So you are supposed to look here, which is the second number. 25 is the first number and negative 5 is the second number. So add the opposite of the second number. Now, what is the opposite of negative 5? The opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. But the concept is saying add the opposite of the second number. So we are going to have negative 25 plus positive 5. So from here, after reaching here, this one you take back to the addition of integers when we say that when the signs are different, keep the sign of the bigger number and subtract. So when you look at these numbers here, when because the signs are different. Here it's negative and this is positive. So which is the number? Which number is bigger here? 25. So keep the sign of the bigger number and the subtract. So here we are going to take 25 minus 5. We are going to get 20. But which side are we going to maintain? We shall maintain the side, the negative side. So here we are having negative 20. So far, so good. That is what we discussed about in our last lesson. But more importantly, I said that in these integers we have positive and negative. Under this, we talked about the two phenomena whereby we had the number line, and I said that on the right hand side of a number line, those numbers are always positive, but on the left hand side of a number line, those numbers are always negative. The numbers are endless. That is why when we do a number line, there is an arrow. We put the arrow here to show that this line is continuous. That is exactly what we discussed about in the last question. So we have to connect this with multiplication of integers. So I believe that you remember what we discussed about last time, and now we have a chance to connect this with today's topic. Today we are talking about multiplication and the division of integers. So we are going to begin with multiplication. We are starting with multiplication of integers. Multiplication of integers. When time allows us, we shall be looking at. When time allows us, we shall be looking at. When time will allow us, we shall also be looking at what we call. We shall be looking at what we call division. So under this, we have the key. When we want to discuss about multiplication of integers, there is a key which is going to guide us. It is very important. Just as I have been talking about formulas, in mathematics it's all about formulas, then in multiplication of integers, there is a key that is going to guide us in multiplying integers. This is very important. The first one we always say, that when you take a negative sign, multiply by positive sign, the answer will be negative. Second one, we also say that when you take a positive sign, a number with a positive sign, multiply with a number with a negative sign, the result will be negative. We also say that when we take a positive number, multiply by a positive number, the answer will be positive. We also say that when we take a negative number, multiply by a negative number, the answer will be negative. Examples. So in each and every case here, we have to give out an example to see how this one works. We have to give out examples to see how this one works. We have said that negative times positive, we get negative. Positive times negative, we get negative. Positive times positive, we get positive. And also negative times negative, then we get positive. So, under examples, example number 1, you may be having positive 4 times negative 3. Positive 4 times negative 3, what you look at this that we have been writing here. So, this key, look at the first number is positive. The second number is negative. So when you look at this, here we have positive and negative. So automatically, our answer is going to have a negative sign. So we take 4 times 3, which is 12. But which sign? Negative. So here, we are going to have negative 12. We will also be having number 2, negative 6 times positive 6, for example. Negative 6 times positive 6. Which concept are we going to apply here? Negative times positive. So negative times positive, we get negative. Meaning that our answer here, 6 times 6, 36. Which side? Negative. So here, we're going to have negative 36. 3, we may be having positive 25 times positive 25 times positive 4. If you multiply, this one is positive, positive, the other you get negative, positive sign. So here, positive 25 times positive 4, then we are going to have positive 100. And finally, negative times negative, we get positive. Maybe, for example, we are going to have negative 14 times negative 14, then negative times negative, we get positive, then the answer is going to be positive 196. So this is very important. This is very important, and as I've said, that under multiplication of integers, these are the key that you are supposed to use. So once you understand this one will never be a problem to you. But also what I want to insist is that when you are writing positive and particularly positive, a number becomes positive once a negative once you indicate the negative sign. But if you don't write anything, for example, in this positive 100, you simply write 100, this number is still positive and it is okay. When this one is positive 196 and you write 196, this number is still positive and it is very okay. I insist that once you put the sign here, then the number becomes negative. But if you leave it like at this point or at this point, then you are fine. If you don't put any point and the number is positive, then the number still remains positive. It only becomes negative when you put a negative sign. So that's how we can tackle these questions involving multiplication of integers. Just to move very fast, let us look at the concept of dividing. Let us look at the concept of dividing integers. Division of integers. This was number 1. Number 2, division of integers. Division of integers. So under division of integers, we are going to look at the same as we have done here. There are also a key which will guide us in tackling this. More specifically, it is more or less the same. That means that when we are doing this, for example, in the first one we say that when you take a negative number, you divide with a positive number, then the answer will be negative. When we take also a positive number, divide that number with a negative number, then the answer will also be negative. When we take a positive number, divide by a positive number, the answer will be positive. Finally, when we take a negative number, we divide it by another negative number, then the result will be positive. So if you check at this division of integers and multiplication of integers, the concept is more or less the same. It appears the same examples. Examples, I'm going to show you some examples as we have done before. I'm going to show you some examples as we have done before, so as you get to know what we are actually doing. So just as I've done here, the same I'm going to do at the other side. So in this case, number 1, we may be having, for example, negative 25 required to divide this by 5. Positive. So this is a negative sign. A negative number divided by a positive number. So you go back to this. Negative divided by positive, we get negative. So finally, we take 25 divided by 5, we get 5. Which sign? Negative. So here, the answer will be negative 5. Number two, we may be having positive 100. Positive 100 divided by negative 4. Negative 4, positive 5, 4, 100 divided by negative 4. Then you also look at this. So what we are doing here, you look at the sides. This is positive and this is negative. So positive number divided by negative number, we get the negative answer. So positive number divided by negative, the answer will be negative. So here, when you take 100 divided by negative 4, 100 positive divided by negative 4, then we get positive, we get negative 25. We're going to have negative 25. Number 3, very fast. We may be having 625. This is positive divided by positive 25. 625 divided by 25. This is a square number. So when you take 625 positive divided by 25 also positive, what you are going to do, you come and check our key, which says that positive number divided by a positive number, the result will be a positive number. So here we are going to have positive 25. Finally, the last example, we have, maybe for example, we are going to have 144. 144. Let me use this. Maybe 225, negative 225, divide by 15. Negative 225 divided by 15, which is negative. So this one will give us, this one is likely going to give us negative 15. I mean positive 15. Because we are talking about negative number divided by another negative number, then the answer will be negative. What is the meaning of this? If you take this, negative 225 divided by 15, negative, this negative side cancels. And once it cancels here, you remain with 225 divided by 15. All these numbers are positive, and that's the result. That's why when we are dividing a negative number with another negative number, it gives us a positive number. So what I'm trying to say is that when we are carrying out operation, actually dealing with integers, please apply these key concepts. Remember, we are completing this topic, but initially we have talked about the positive and the negative numbers. We have also discussed about addition and the subtraction of integers. Just to remind you, we said that when we are adding integers, there are principles we use, and particularly there are two. We say that when the signs are the same, keep the sign and add. Number two, we said that when the signs are different, please, we have said that when the signs are different, then keep the sign of the bigger number and subtract. Then we talked about subtraction of integers, and we said that they add the opposite of the second number. So when you do that, you will be having no problem when you are carrying out addition and subtraction of integers. Today's lesson, we were looking at multiplication and division of integers. And under multiplication of integers, we have looked at this. This is the key. So as a student of mathematics, these things should stick in your heads. As I'm talking now, please ensure that you are copying this in your exercise books, class exercise books, and make sure that you have them in your head. So once you are given a question of this kind, maybe multiplication of integers, then what you have to do, you have to remind yourself about these key points that I've talked about. I've talked about it, positive, negative, times in positive, you get negative side, negative answer. We have talked about it, positive, positive times negative, you get negative, positive times positive, you get positive, negative times negative, we get positive. And I've given you some examples as you can see here. We have also discussed about division of integers, and I have said that negative divided by positive, you get negative, positive divided by negative, we get negative, then positive divided by positive, we get positive, and negative divided by negative, we get positive. And I've shown you some examples here. Now, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to copy these things, have them in your exercise books. Otherwise, I want to give you few questions so that you may attempt as you are at home. Just very few questions. Work out. So these are the questions that I want you to, these are the questions that I'd like you to tackle as you are at home, and I have insisted that please make sure you do them in your exercise book. Otherwise, as I end up this lesson, I want to insist or I want to remind you that make sure we still insist that COVID-19 still is a deadly disease, and we are supposed to keep watch. We are supposed to use all the measures that the doctors has given us to ensure that we are always safe. I wish you all the best. Good day. Thank you very much.